This video, uh, this should be the concluding part of the Cashbook transaction setup where we intend to be able to create and edit, submit and delete Cashbook transaction records. So in the last video, we got to where we're able to click, intercept the click event and get to the editing of the existing transaction, Cashbook transaction. So the UI is adjusted automatically. Every drop down seems to be working for continuity of editing. So what remains now is for us to be able to implement this. So you can see we just have a button called update and there's this validate, though this one really does not matter much because we're already validating in the code itself. So our concern is to enable this update in the refactored one. So, but if we go to the refactored one now, we'll see that there's new. We don't want new to be here. So let's start removing things that we don't need in this interface. So let's take away this new button first. So we'll go to the, okay, let me check in the code for the part 7. It's supposed to be part 6, but it doesn't really matter. Checking the code for the last video into code commit AWS. So what we want to do is we'll go to the application model. Please, it's important for you to know that, like I said, the application model is existing in the cross-platform module and the platform-specific module and even in the hosting project itself. So you will want to, when you are truly writing a cross-platform application with this framework, meaning that you want a desktop version of it and you want a web version of it and a mobile version of it, which this framework is all about, you will make sure that most of your code is written in this place. That's the cross-platform module. If all code you write here will run whether on behalf of mobile, on behalf of web, on behalf of desktop. So the more code you have here, the more cross-platform your application is. So if you write a simple application and all your code is written only in this module, it means you don't need to do any other thing in the other module, hopefully, and your code will run. So I just want you to be mindful of that. Most of the customization I've done so far, I think, you can look at the other videos, I've been in this module. I know I did one or two controllers here, but concerning this particular implementation of our refactored cashbook transaction model, I have not touched anything here because you can see there's no name relating to our naming convention here for the cashbook transaction view model. So I have not touched here for now. You can correct me maybe in the other video I've done that. But so I'm going to go into the application model here and I'm going to our view. Like I said, I want to remove the new button and I think the way to do that is, like I said, you can do some things in the application model and you can do it in code. So there are some things that we will do in code to disable the interface. So let me function F6. So the new is gone. Now, we also don't want delete here because from the initial desktop design, the delete has always been in the interface for doing the listing, not the editing or add new. I mean, the editing. So we are going to follow that design, though I always believe that it is better to be on the detail side of things to work on something, but just because it will allow us to also explore things like being able to select multiple records and delete them at once, we will just go with that at the end of the day. So um, let's remove this delete. Edit, allow, delete. Okay. I am actually doing it one after the other so that you can actually see the effect as we are managing the UI. Otherwise, when you know what you're doing, you don't need to be doing it and running it one by one and just delete. I mean, remove everything at once. So delete is gone too. The next thing is that we want to remove this button here for saving and whatever, save and close. We would like to put our own button on the view instead of using this one. So let's do that. Though I must say that you can actually intercept this, but for me, I find it neater to remove them, and because like in this one, you will have to implement two events. They want to write the code to run the delete function and they want to close the view. So it's better you just go through the route of removing this. Now, in order to remove this now, this is where we need to do it. We need to do it in code. So this is our view that we want to work on. So let me remove this one. Sometimes when the things on the UI are too much, it becomes confusing. So this is our controller for the editing part. We now want to remove this. So let me borrow the code from the old one. Now I'll take it one after the other. This is the controller in charge of that part of the UI. So I come here, I show the controller, put it there. Then in the activate event, I want to take this code here. Most things you want to happen when the UI opens should be in the unactivated event of the controller controlling that part of the UI. So I'm sure I've explained this in the last videos, but this is how you get a handle on a controller, an existing controller. You know, we have the custom controllers and the one that came with the framework. This one came with the framework. So um, I want to selectively pick the buttons that I want to deactivate, and this is how to deactivate them. So this statement is all about telling the UI that I don't want to see those buttons on the screen. Though I noticed on the web, depending on the context, this save and new is not showing up. It's save and close. Okay, because we're editing, right? Let me see if we create new. Oh, okay, we've removed the those buttons here too. So we want to remove this. So even if save and new is not there, just in case, let's still leave this statement here. So by the time we do F6, so the button is gone. Um, Now let's put our own button on the UI. Now we have to go to the designer of our controller, and when the toolbox finish initializing, this code rush that is making this thing behave like this. I will have to disable it, but I am interested in showing you why I installed it. I'm sure you will have seen the video or something, the documentation of what code rush is. Right now, before I install code rush, if I want to create a property for my business object, I have to first do the field, then I have to start doing copy and pasting of existing ones, editing. With code rush now, it's just a template that you just like a code snippet. So wow, it's really affecting the performance of Visual Studio. Once I'm through with it, I need to disable it. Wow. So we're still waiting for the toolbox to initializing. So the structure of what we're doing since has been create the, and if we are to say what are the bullet points of the steps, the first thing is to create the business object or the related business objects for the module you want to convert once you identify the module. And normally the business objects is like a reflection of what is happening on the UI. After that, you identify the presenter. Okay, this is done. So we just drag a simple action here, and this action will be called, remember naming convention and the fact that the application framework uses a global namespace kind of thing. So everything needs to be unique, ID and all that. That's why you see, for in order to help in that uniqueness, it gives a GUID as a default ID. But because of the fact that we'll be doing some customization on the application model, we will not be able to identify. It won't be nice for us to be identifying through GUID. So instead, I will say the name is update. No, I'll call it, yeah, update cash book transaction. That's what I will call this one. Now we copy it also as the ID, right? Then the caption will just be update. Then the category, I will leave it in the save version. Then I don't need to confirm saving. So the scoping now is, let me click the main view. I want to start doing some copy and paste. So copy from the main view, click on the button, paste it. The view type is detailed view. Okay, so let's control function F6. Now, the reason why I built it now is that I want the application model to pick it up. And the main reason why I want to do that, I want to set the image. Well, here, there's no image picker. But now that I've built it, I can go to the application model and I should be able to see it there. I should be able to see it there under actions. So see it under update cashbook transaction. So at this level, I am able to pick image. So save. So I'll go to, and I said I don't know why these two they don't show up on the web. So I'm always using the new web UI image, and I want the save and close image. Then the paint style also should be caption and image, which will make both what we wrote and the image to appear. So function F6. So we have it here. So I just wanted to show you where this thing is. So if you want to change this, let's change this one to Cashbook transaction details. Since we already have the editing here, let's change this one to Cashbook transaction details. So in order to do that, go to the ever powerful application model and you look for that view. There's the view, edit, the detail view, items. Now, because we cloned a view, you will not see three versions of it because it's just a clone of existing three, the default three. Is your business model, that business object that will be giving three views by default. But all your cloned ones are just the way they are. So when I come here in the layout, I do customize layout. Then I come to the tree view. Then I come here and say rename. Sorry, come here and say rename. Say Cashbook transaction details. Right click, hide customization. Then function F6. So now let's implement the code here. So how do we do that? You just come here and you double click on this to open the code view. So this is where we are going to write the code to save. And let me go to where we created the new one and copy something over from there. So same thing that's going to happen. We'll tell the presenter to save, and we create a new business object, and we navigate to back to the list view. Simple. Now you need to appreciate this statement here in the sense that this statement is going to pick its values from the UI because it's the presenter now. So the presenter is a code that we are reusing. So somebody, an inquisitive mind, should just ask, how will this save be able to get a handle on all these things that is on the screen? So very simple. That is the reason why you implemented this interface. And this is the interaction of the presenter with the outside world. So once you have prepared the outside world for the presenter, just give it that outside world. Then from there, you just start telling the presenter what to do. And that's why we only called save here. And because we know if there's an error, the presenter will talk to us through the outside world through this. This is where the presenter will tell us there's an error. And what did we do? We just told the web, this is a way of sending the error back to the browser that look, there's an error. So I think with that, let's do function F6. Okay, there's still something I forgot. But let me do it before we test it. There's for no update here. It's not that I forgot. It's okay. We don't need to be when you are updating. You don't start asking for confirmation. So go to Cashbook. Click. Let's change this one to XXXX. It. See it. Let's go back and change this binding equipment to air conditioner. Now, as far as this has changed, this should clear. We might need to pick a new budget line since this has changed. So we need to go and write code that will initialize this place on the change of this. So we need to come here to our controller where we wrote the event manager. Yes. So when transaction subhead is selected, we want to clear the budget. So, and the idea is when the head is selected, we clear the subhead. So I'm thinking that this will also come and trigger this property change. Hopefully, I don't know, but if not, by implication, it means when we immediately we change the head, both the subhead should clear and the budget should clear because they now need to be reselected. So, but let's first just leave it here and hope that this statement will make a callback on property change again so that this one can run. If that's not the case, then we need to move this statement and add it here too. So, but let's see it first. Function F6. So, because it is important you readjust the UI, otherwise you will just capture wrong data into a field that is not supposed to be there. So let's choose air conditioner. Wow, it still didn't work. Okay, so this one has cleared, right? Now, let me choose it back. Let me just choose something back there. Now, let me choose this one, aids and grants. Okay, so it means this one, it did not initiate that callback. So when this changes, we need to reset this one too. Because as far as this one has been reset, this one too should be reset. So we'll come here and but ideally it should be in the implementation of this thing, the presenter, for the presenter to tell the UI to do this. So, but these are some of the leakages in the presenter implementation because the best place is for the presenter to have known that since the cache head has been selected, we need to reset these two. So you should use the interface that is using to talk to the outside world to do that. It's not that we will be doing that, but it's still okay. So then, anytime also this is changed, we will not only want to reset this one because if it's a withdrawal, we bring suppliers. If it is deposit, we bring customers. So once this one changes, it should affect the budget too. Because only when you are withdrawing that you need a budget. So we'll come to transaction type and also take cognizance of this. Then the truth is that even when the date changes, yes, the budget too should change. The reason why is because if you choose a year that does not have a budget and we've not cleared the budget code, then it means you are going to go and store budget codes that is for belonging to a wrong year. So this too, we should need to trap this guy here. So once ref date changes, what we just want to do is to clear the budget. And I'm also thinking that we need to also clear the transaction type, but we can still go on like this. So let's see. Let me start with the date and see. Oh, okay. Now this is very good. The reason why that won't happen is because of this attribute. We have to go to the view model. You see this attribute. Any place you want to do something when the property changes, you need decorate it with this attribute immediate post back. Option F6. Okay, it's ref date with the small d. I need to change this to ref date with the small d. Option F6. Okay, so let's try the date first. Yeah, so let's choose the budget again. Okay, so what about if I choose a year that doesn't have budget? Select it first. Okay, there's a 19 budget there. Okay, now not only do we have to change this, we need to change this date affects this guy because it is actually when you select this guy that it goes to check for budget. is when this thing becomes a withdrawal. So we should also clear this view once the date changes. So this is important for the correct behavior of the UI, and this is what we need to do in the even in the create new. We didn't do it there, but this is us trying to make the UI bulletproof so that wrong data will not come into play. And automatically, when it changes and the transaction time changes, we also need to clear the customer, because when you withdraw, we bring suppliers. When you deposit, we bring customers. So this should, I think this should be okay for the UI function F6. You can still look at it critically, especially when you talk to the experts like Ima to let you know the data that are required and in what sequence. But the whole idea is that the budget code area is dependent on some things that should be on the UI. And not only to be on the UI, they have to be posted back to. Okay, I just wanted to make sure this one does not have, because it's not capital expenditure. So they are not only supposed to be on the UI. Anytime those things change on the UI, there needs to be a post back to the server. So let's do this now. Let me change this. So all this has changed. Withdraw, customer back. Then we have our budget code. Okay, supposing I want to change to a year that I know we don't have budget. There's no budget in the system for any time in 2020. Why didn't this thing change? I don't know, maybe I didn't select it well, but this is what I expect. Seem to clear. So now there's no budget in the system. So even if we come and do withdrawal here and choose the customer, we still will not see any budget because there's no budget for this period. So let's go back. Why? I don't know why if I type the event is not fired after tapping away. Okay, it's working. So there's a budget that exists. Withdraw, general supplier, and this time around let's use this and update. So that is it for the update. The next thing now is let's put these icons on our own delete and submit. Then we'll remove this one. Okay, let's start by, we need to disable these two because it doesn't exist here. And we also need to disable this edit here because we've already intercepted the, or let me see whether we don't need to disable it. It's still opening the same UI. No, it's not. The data is not complete when we use that because it's the default. This is the default editing provided by the framework. We are not intercepting anything. And you can see somehow it's intelligent enough to put some things on the UI, but some other things did not appear. So because nothing is controlling it, we're working with the default. So we will disable this and remove these two. So let's start by going to the application model, going to the Cashbook model list view. We don't want delete there, false. Yes, we don't want delete. That's the default delete, right? So function F6. So you can see it's gone. But now we want to remove this edit. So ordinarily, we will have thought that since we are still in the list view, we should just come here and say allow edit is equals to false, which is already there, and then it will disrupt that. But somehow you can see that it's still there even when the allow edit is equals to false. So we have to do that in code. So I'll go to the controller where I'd used it before. I think we're through with this controller now. Let's close the application object. Let's close this. Let's close this. So what we want to do now is control something on the list view page. So we're going to go to the Cashbook transaction view model list view, and let me open the existing one, which is this one. Yes. So one of the things, where is it? Because our concern is this one does not have the edit, and we too want to remove edit from this one. So this is the old one. Where is the controller that took away the edit? Okay. Okay. Yes, this is a good example of a reason to visit the platform dependent view model now. Now, we cannot do this in a cross-platform way because if it was a Windows desktop application now, we won't be talking about this disabling this because this does not exist in or I mean, what we want to do now cannot be done on a cross-platform basis. That's what we are saying. So the customization of removing this button now must be done on the platform itself. So we are going to come here and in the same name we gave to the list controller um, in the cross-platform place, we can still use that same name here. So we will come here and add a normal class. So I will copy the whole of this code, the former one, then I will paste it here and edit it so that don't waste time typing. So now our own is cash, transaction view model. So you can see this type of view controller. The scoping is done in code. It doesn't have a designer where we choose everything. We have to do it in code. So that's the difference. And in the past videos, I'd explained how this one is inherited from object view controller, and that one is an inheritance from the normal view controller, the one that has a designer interface where you can do stuff. So just come here, paste this one here, since that's the target object. Then the view we are controlling is the one that is for this. And now the code is straightforward. We want to control the list view. So we went for the inbuilt controller, instantiated it, and just told it that, look, we don't want you to show those edit buttons. And we deactivated from, this is required. I saw it in the documentation itself. It's like, I think what happens is this. The initial place I copied the code was supposed to deactivate the whole view that comes in focus, the edit button of any view that comes in focus, then later release it for that. So I just copied that code, but the whole idea is that this statement, when the view is activated, it will disable the edit functionality. Then when it is going out of scope, it will enable it back. I know we can still do without this, but I will just leave it there. So I think that is it. By the time we do function F6, so you can see both this and this one is gone. Now, the next thing is, let's put the coloration, I mean the icon for these buttons on our own buttons. So I'll go to, I think that's the only customization we are doing in the platform dependent for now, so that I can close this one. So now I want to control something on the list view. So I'm back to the list view controller now. Now you remember we have two buttons here that we put on the screen, and we initialize them with this code. Now, what I want to draw to your attention is this. If you look at the initialize code, you will notice that we have given an ID of submit cashbook transaction action and delete cashbook transaction action. And since we have been running this application, means we have built it, it will be available in the application model. So this image that we put here initially, we can do without putting this statement here. I mean, we don't need it because this is not where we want to set the image. We want to set it with the application model. So this statement is not really necessary. So I will just go to the application model and I will go to actions and I should see the two of them: delete cashbook transaction. So one is delete trans. I think this is the old one. This is the one that rhymes with the names we gave them. So you can see this one is delete cashbook transaction and this is delete cashbook transaction. So you can come here and pick the image and say that it is caption and image. And we can also come here, submit cashbook transaction. Let me see, what image did I use for the former one? Okay, the former one I used save script there. So come here, change this image name to save script, then change this one to default caption and image. Then function F6. So we have those images now. So the next thing is just to implement the delete and the submit. So we come here, and I think the code is already there based on what we did in the former um, one, but we need to tweak this one now a little bit in the sense that um, now we want to implement multiple, allow you to choose like more than one item so that we can look through it. So this statement is valid. Let's work with the delete first before we do submit. So this is us looking through something like this. We have selected this and this and we want to delete it together. So once we look through it, now this was when we were using the old style of not implementing the presenter on the controller. So this will not work again. So what we need to do now is find a way of giving this thing to the presenter. So the presenter is going to call us back through. Oh, this was the old one. Sorry. I'm supposed to be in the new one. This is our new one. You can see this is the old one. Item VM. Our own is Cashbook transaction view model. So we implemented the view. So this is where we need to be. Where is it? This is where we need to be creative. Okay, I've seen it. So what we did was we declared an internal property and we now set it to what will be returned by the view. So what we need to do is be setting this property and calling delete. the view will be picking it up back from here, since that's the interface to the outside world. So we're already geared up for what we want to do here. All we now need to do is that when the view is looping, we need to come here. We need to say this dot this is equals to item dot OID. So, so we have, this is a way of telling the view this is what to delete. Virtue of what I showed you initially up by scrolling up. So then we tell the view to delete. So as far as we have set this property, the view will be able to pick it through the interface with the outside world. So this is what we are going to do to also to the submit. And I think with that, we can function F6. But let me see, will the view call us back so that that view can refresh? No, the view is not refreshing the UI for us. So it means that we need to call again and tell the presenter, once we have finished deleting everything, we'll now tell the presenter to initialize again. So this should have the effect of representing, it should have the effect of representing the list so that it can now only contain what was deleted. So that is what I hope anyway, because it makes sense to say that, okay, once we have submitted, once we have deleted, we need to refresh the UI. So, and the UI from the beginning, this is what we called when we were initializing the UI that brought the data in the activate event. So you can see. So this is like delete, then after deleting everything, refresh the UI. So let's check it. So, once I'm deliberately going to select multiple to delete, then I will now submit one. So let's delete. Fantastic. Let's submit. Fantastic. So this is the end of the Cashbook transaction setup video. We've been able to build the unsubmitted list, which is this list view, create new ones that are redirected back into the list, and submit or delete the unsubmitted transactions. So this is the same routine you are going to follow in order to convert the whole of the desktop application to the web. The only thing you need to just do is to locate the presenters for the functionalities that you want to implement. And once you have located the presenter, you, depending on the part you want to build, you do the controller for that to control that part of the UI, whether it's a list view or detail view. Then you implement the view interface required by the presenter on the controller of that functionality, and that is all you need to do. So this is the This is the last video on the Cashbook transaction setup series of video, which is like an 8-part series, and uh, it's hopefully you'll be able to apply this um, model to do the remaining conversion of the existing application. So before I close this video, I just wanted to show you what I brought in code first for. Okay, let me leave that for now and I will show it in the next video.